Hello, everyone, and welcome back for the coding portion of our daily streams. We're going to be continuing our game development project with some physics experimentation. We need to be able to get more creatures on the screen, though. I feel like we can get a more reasonable number and go from there. Before we do, let's check in with kitties. We do have Sky on the bed. Not terribly common, but not impossible, of course. We do have Sammy and Mason in the play area. I lace that area with catnip. So Mason likes to sit in there when there's been fresh catnip, and Sammy apparently does as well. Sure, it's at the window. Clearly, there's a critter out there. Yes, I'm interested. I wonder if maybe. Oh, I heard that. There's a thump on the window there. Let's see. Sammy's coming in as well. Wonder if they're converging to see what he's up to. Look at that tail lash, though. Oh, there's Mason looking. He's at the bottom of the window. Definitely some critters out there. But yeah. So I made some adjustments so that we can see the performance, get some data, you know. Water. One moment. We'll show this. We're zoomed out to about 10 times here. We can see some of the blobs are being scattered. I think we have some better ways to fix that. I've been thinking, but it's going to be pretty soon. Yeah, our frame rate has just tanked. It's about 400, 450 that the frame rate starts to plummet. Part of it is all these collisions happening. In fact, a significant part of it. Now, we can mitigate this by reducing the number of blobs that appear. If, say, we cap it at 400, you know? I thought I'd intercepted that, Zell. Sorry. It should be better now, is it? Yeah, there's a toggle that I have to flip. Well, a reset that I have to do. But it doesn't always stick, you know? Changing a number here real quick. Okay. It's weird, it's inconsistent, and it's super annoying because I don't know until somebody tells me, because it has no impact on my local sound. It's only what goes through the stream. Let's see. But hey, welcome back. Why did my mouse swing over like that? Weird. Now even Sky's looking out the window. So we can get about 400 creatures. So for testing purposes, we're going to draw the kill zone in further. So if we look at our game script, we have the spawner. Okay, so we should go into our 2D view. Hello, Ember. Yes, I acknowledge you. Okay, we're at 3840, which is about double. So if we remove 960 from that, math. Be like 2880, right? That sounds about right. Okay. Looks about right. And then it's about 540. Should be 1620. Okay, so now the blobs will get culled on the edge of the screen there. And if we move, the kill zone slides along with us. Eats up the blobs. So this should have a substantial limit on the number of blobs that can appear. We do need to fix the extra collision problems that are happening there. But this isn't a long-term fix because we can get critical mob count already at 400. So that's not 100% the solution there. Because not only do we want to have that number so that we can have things being wiped out at the edge of the screen, we also want to have more fluid movement from the blobs. Well, from any monster, the blobs are a placeholder. So one possibility is to fundamentally change the physics. So we're going to test something here. You go into the game and we're going to make sure that the spawner I'm going to do that. Okay. And we're going to remove the bullet spawner for now. And we're going to add... Oh, not that. We are going to add another area. Sci-Fi, the game will be able to do mobile. If you can see in the upper right corner there, it's going to be tiny on mobile, but on tall form. But the game will be compiled in a format that is mobile compatible. Getting it on mobile requires that the game be done. We are well away from the game being done. And it also requires that it would pass mobile testing. And that's a huge hurdle. We don't know what the name will be yet, Sci-Fi. Nyanite Survivors is the project name, but that doesn't mean it will become the game name. All right, where's our area? Okay, so we're going to create another area. Or rename that to be collision test. Technically, we shouldn't be using underscores here, but... we will make it apparent once we reach that point. We'll be notifying folks on the Discord once we get to a point where we might be doing more public testing, all that kind of stuff. But ways to go, ways to go. Okay, so we have collision test. We're going to add a couple of collision shapes to it. But we're going to do that dynamically. We're going to do that dynamically. We've changed this so it gets the count of creatures. That will always be 0 now. Welcome back, Crazy Monk. And I remember your name, but nothing else. Just to head off the inevitable question that you asked. Let's see here. Collision zone as a collision shape 2D. Collision shape 2D. Shape is a circle. Dot new. Dot new. Dot new. Shape. Let's see. Circle shape 2D. Circle shape 2D. New. I don't know that I actually need to new these, but we need to make sure that they're not nulls. This is equal to... let's check what the player's collision radius is. It's about 22 as far as the circle, so let's add some 22s. We'll say 30. Transform that we need. Let's take a look at it again. It's transform in position. Oh no, not the collision shape. You need to add the zone. Equal to what? We attach this, we trigger this, we move the spawner around based on the spawner path. Okay. That's what we want there. So we'll add them at the spawn path. Then we go back into our game scene, and it will be our collision test. Not add child collision zone. All right, test fire. All right. It collides with checks for the player. Okay, we should be able to get an event out of that. And what if... All right, now we're going to go node. We're going to do body entered. And we're going to connect that into the game object, like so. Print debug. We're Debbie. So why we're doing this is we're looking at a way to change how mobs collide. Okay. Next thing we need to do, so we know, like, that's working. So this collision test area is every shape that's put in it counts as this thing colliding. Oh, need to find a cat. Cat check. Oh, Ember's in the catnip box now. They should be lingering there for a little bit. And the shape of the received body enters a shape of this area. Body entered. So the next thing that I want to do is see if I can identify which collision area was the one that collided. I think we're going to have to do body shape entered. indices of the interacting shapes from this area and the interacting body. Okay, that's what the physics server is dealing with. Physics server is the thing in the background handling all of this interaction. The reason that I want this is that I need the bodies to be able to, the shapes to be connected back to a body, such that we can change it so that a mob body is not just a shape. Okay, here's the next thing we need to do then. We're going to make a new entity that is a collision shape, but I want a child to be a sprite. Can we do that? New scene is going to inherit from collision shape 2D. It is we're just going to call it test mob. Okay, doesn't do anything by itself. Makes sense. We're going to give it a collision shape. We're going to make it a circle. Its circle is going to have a radius of big, and it's going to have a animated sprite. Which needs animation. So we do new sprite frames. And where is it? Is a... Oh, here we go. Resource. No, that's local to scene. That's not what we're looking for. Ah, but we needed to open it. So now we load... Add frames from sprite sheet. Art. I'm going to put a blob in it. And the size is 16 by 16. Select all of these. We are going to try that again. Hey there, Gojo. Welcome, welcome. We are revamping our physics system from the ground up. Add those frames. Okay, jumpy blob. It will move at 6 frames per second. Animate it. We set its scale to 6. One can hope this game will be good. Okay, so we have test mob. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add test mobs to the scene instead of adding the generic circle ones. Well, it's not even remotely done yet, Gojo. Like I was mentioning earlier, it will be compatible with well, in theory, it will be capable of running on mobile, but the idea of distribution platforms is far down the road. I have no idea. Okay, then we go into game code. And instead of this song and dance, going to comment that out for now. So we don't even need that now. Our load a test mob, just so. Will that not work? Will give us a resource. I have 5 cats, Gojo. You can see Sammy there. You can definitely see at least 3 right now. So Sammy's still hanging out on that little box. Sky is sitting on... He's technically a bit to my right. He's going to walk over to where Ember is now. Why will this not work? Let's look at our spawner and get an idea of what we're doing here. Sky is generally the only one that can get away with snuggling up to Ember like that. And camera 1 has jammed again. Let's try to force it. Camera 1 is not reliable. That's a packed scene. So we have a pack scene.instantiate. So let's try to load that, and is equal to mob scene.instantiate. All right, I think that's working. Already answered that, Gojo. Oh, I'm sorry. You said you will. Oh, we'll see if it's possible. Mob dot position is equal to spawner path follow dot. I think that's what we need. Then look at test mob. Look at 2D there. Should be a toggle for it to auto animate. There we go. You were in the last stream, Gavin. Okay. So what this test has shown us is that we can change the whole paradigm here. Instead of the enemies being physics bodies, thanks for joining us, Gojo. Instead of the enemies being physics bodies with collision shapes, they're going to be collision shapes with an animated sprite. And they're going to be added to a collision area that represents all monster collisions. Then what we can also have is a listing of entities that we can use to track the individuals. Because each one of those areas is tied to an individual creature. So that we can handle movement. It would also allow me to have, like, the movement tracking logic inside them. Okay. How do we do? How do we do? So the master collision area for monsters would need to have some logic to it. Already answered that, Gavin. Appreciate that you folks want to converse, but please, if you do, please pay attention. I had said, yes, you were in the last stream. Okay. So we have something to generate spawners. We will need to change the spawner logic. We need something that tracks the mob bodies entirely for their behavior. The mob bodies is the actual mob entity is just a script runner that during its physics process will move this entity around. It is a game that we're writing, Gavin. We're making this game. It is far from done. Change the camera, zoom back in so we can get a good look at this. We're getting multiple of those stacked on top of each other. Let's adjust that logic real quick. Not getting the best test of it. If don't need a time since weapons update. Spawn is a float equals 0. If that is greater than 1, do this. Spawn is equal to 0. Equals delta. All right, that'll edit every second. Yeah, okay, that's functioning. Previously, it was firing every fraction of a second. Every frame update, so we weren't getting a good indication. These will be moving around once we get them working. I also need to fix that flip horizontal there, because the capsule isn't tracking how I want it. We'll get that eventually, though. Okay, so we need to fundamentally change how a monster body is created. Which is going to flip the table on a lot of stuff. How to do. We're essentially going to change our pools to be areas, just to be concise about it. Actually, let's test this further. And we're going to change this to color collision test. Get child count. And we're going to ten times a second. All right, Zell. Lurking is fine. If you just want to sit around and listen or similar, that's just entirely okay. And we're going to accelerate that. We're going to remove that limiter. Hey there, King. Welcome back. Do 100. Not losing frames yet. Looking good. All right, we have 2,000 collision zones active. And we're still not losing frames. All right, next thing. We are going to go into our test mob. And we're going to add some ray casts onto it. Add a node. YouTube didn't like that. Second. Scanning some text here. Why didn't YouTube like that? Does somebody think they're clever? Hey there, Zeno. We are working on our game here. Working on our game. So we're going to add some ray casts. They are going to be aiming that way. Transform scale of 6. Like that. No, Zeno. One of the things about live streaming is your goal is to entertain, so you have to be trying to do whatever it is you normally do, whether anybody's watching or not. I actually don't pay attention to the count. For the most part, more people viewing pay attention to the count than I do. Wrong. Paste. Let's see. I'm going to go up by maybe 24, isn't it? I think that's about right. That'll do. Okay. These collide with enemies. enemies won't care about colliding with other enemies. These are just interested in seeing them. Because this area will need to be able to change this, but go back to our game area. Go into collision test. It's looking for player and it exists in enemy. So the next thing we'll do is we're going to add a script to this. Lives down here at the moment, which I don't like, but you know, what are we going to do? Welcome back, Dana. This equals let's see. Position. Toward global layer position. Delta. Normalize. Pretty sure Vector 2 has that. Oh, that's different. Okay. Is it? We're coding our game. We're working on that. Angle 2. That's not what we want. Direction 2. So there as vector 2 to this. To that. No, that. There's definitely a normalize, right? What have I been doing? I'm working on a new physics system, Dana. Or at least an alternate way to do the physics. Is normalized. Normalized. course. Normalized. Position plus equals direction to player times 4 times delta. All right, well, they're going in the wrong direction, but they are moving. These are not colliding with player. That's okay. It's okay. But they're also not getting there, Sunfish, getting there. They're also not colliding with the enemy zones, which is what we want. Maybe it's because they're... Let's look at our test body. I'm going to say don't exclude parent. Oh, you are definitely colliding with things. These should be going off. These vectors should be going off. They're searching for things on the 3. And this exists on the 3. So why aren't they? Why aren't they? Hey there, Squinnick. Okay, these vectors aren't working. Rid of that. Why are they not working? We're trying to use the vectors because what we want to do is make it so that these arrows are what move the monsters around, that they avoid each other. And then this bubble is what collides with the player. But the vectors aren't detecting this collision mask. Oh. Womp womp. They were set not to collide with areas. Okay, we need to make sure they're all excluding areas here. Or that they all only collide with areas. They're set to exclude parent. Oh, okay. Need to remove hit from inside. Yep. Okay. They are colliding now. We are up to 700 entities, many of them overlapping, many of them colliding with vectors. At about 1,000, we're starting to run into some latency. 1,200, we're getting some hitches. Yeah, okay. Oh, hey, Bubbles. Haven't seen you in a bit. Okay, so first, go into our test mob code. Okay, test mob needs code. Those are the more important things, Bubbles. Function. It's going to update this once per frame. Where were we putting the movement initially? Put that in the wrong spot? Ah, okay. That's why. It's moving the entire block here. Attach you. We're going to delete this. Back in here. Position. Two is equal to position direction 2. Mobile nodes player position. Which should be pointing at from the collision shapes direction position to the player. Equals Okay, they're all moving in the wrong direction. Okay, we have a much higher tolerance for movement now. And even with all of this going, producing 10 a second, we're still hitting better frame rate than we were. Previously, our limit was under 500. We go to game logic here. Disconnect all of those. Go into our game script. Don't need that right now. So we've more than doubled our projectile limit. And that's including with the area logic here. I know collision detection is working at the moment. The blobs don't touch each other because they're set up not to. The blobs themselves aren't physical objects. So the vectors are going to be what we replace that with, where we're going to make it so that they move away from each other. So let's get in there. And we don't need to do this as much as we are. Float is equal to 0. Equals delta if time since process is greater than equal to 1. We'll just update this once a frame. Still way too often, but hey, we're passing the point at which the prior physics would have gone haywire. Yeah, the positioning of the world area is off. But why? Given the scale of things, if we can get it to the point where this many mobs can be spawned, I think we're fine. We shouldn't need to get over 1,000. So we're going to do this. We're going to look at the 3D. We're going to tighten that down onto little blobby friend here. We'll change this based on their movement speed. Maybe it's because the area in the game world is different. 0, 0. Sure, its scale is the same. As if we put a scale of 6 on that. Right now what I'm working on is making sure that they are positioned correctly, and I think that's... Oh, that's not what we wanted at all. Hey there, One Piece. About... We're doing well. We're doing well. We are attempting to... words... We're working on our game. We're making some progress. All right, they're getting the left right. Okay, some of them are getting it. Let's... All right, the ones in negative space aren't working. The ones in positive space are working. Sorry, the ones in positive Y are working. This is the creature count. So why are the ones in negative Y not working? Debug. If two-player position spelled remotely right. String player. I mean, Stop. Hey, Bubbles, thanks for joining us. Okay, player is at 0. The blob is at a negative y, so it's above the player. It's being set to a positive y and a negative x. So it's to the right and above the player. So yeah, it should be moving left and down. That's right. That is correct. So why are the blobs not moving down? Because we should have blobs moving up. Because they're moving in from the left. They're moving in from above. Okay. Sure, whatever. Maybe I just hadn't saved something. $$ Acast. Hit children. Or Raycast. Is equal to player angle or Raycast. When Raycasts hit children. Then dot target position, right? Raycast. X is equal to it saves everything before it runs, usually. Unless there's a problem. If there's a problem, it doesn't. And sometimes it seems like it doesn't. I'm not sure. Okay, the little arrows should all be pointed at me now. If we could see them. Okay, we can see them flickering inside there. Well, I mean, that's cool, but it's not what they're supposed to do. Okay, there's an offset going on here. So if I go back to 0, 0, they'll converge on me. They should eventually converge on me. Yeah. There's an offset happening. Look, I stopped moving. I'm not moving. I'm at 0, 0. See how they're all coming right at me? Let's see if I can get that, or... Okay, if I keep moving left, see how they're... That one, the further left I go, the further left they're aiming. I keep going down. Okay, there's something off here. So the coordinate space inside the area is different. So I'm using scaling, and that might be part of the problem. No, wait. Yeah. The scaling that I'm using is 6, which I think is throwing off the coordinate space because the area is its own coordinate space, and I am putting the circles in that space accordingly. Okay, that's not it. I'm just speculating here a bit. Okay, that's exacerbating the problem. Okay, we're going to the right. Yeah. Okay, the times 6 exaggerates that problem. That again. Very trippy. All right, so it's not that coordinate space that's wrong. All right, by using global position, we're getting it out. We're removing it from that scenario. Oh, well, that's why it's... Oh, that's going to start it getting messed up. Let's reset that. Make them actually move faster, but change the rate at which they update. They're now moving in the wrong direction. Okay, it has gone back to that weird behavior now. They're updating way slower than they should. Slow their spawn rate a little bit. Vectors are pointing in the right direction. They're only up... Oh. Yeah, it's once a second they're changing their position. But why? The raycast is working, so the direction 2 is correct. Oh, actually, no. No, we don't know that the direction 2 is accurate. No, it is. It is. We're setting the angle properly. So this vector points at the player. And then we're adding to the current position the vector multiplied out, so they should be moving right along. I feel like there's something wonky going on with space here. We need to use scaling, because if we don't use scaling, then the sprites are too small. Way too small. Like super tiny. Because we're using 16 by 16 sprites. I've been drinking Sapphire, but that's a good reminder that I should top up my drink. Timing is impeccable, Amber. Give me a minute. As soon as I went to fill up my drink bottle, Ember came running over like, hey, I want to sit on your lap right now. Frames per second of the game is about, well, it's going to vary. It's unbounded. Process happens as fast as it can get a frame. I don't know. Let's find out. It looks like 60 is where it's sitting. And we'll be able to sit there for quite some time. It'll start to drop if we reach 1,000 entities. Yeah, we're back to the positions being scaled weird. Like, their actual positions are weird. The vector to me is correct. All right. Okay, let's step over this. 2-player. We're not seeing some of this. Self, is it? Oh. Okay, that's where global position is coming in. It's in a completely different coordinate space. Like, that's really far out, I think. Yeah, it's not terribly far out, though, really. That's less than a screen to the right. And less than a screen up. So no, that's not out of the question. So what are we doing wrong here? We've got some fundamental misunderstanding going on here. Okay, it is to the left, and it is above. And the two-player vector is to the right and down. Yeah. Stop, we'll reset it, get the first one going again. All right, so our two-player is positive, positive. So it's going to increase the position by, 0.6, 0.8, 0.06, 0.08. So we should get a small increase to X and Y. Not raycast self. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. Because all of the values here are reasonable. Yeah, we're still getting skewed space here, which is where global position came in. Global position lets me get the vectors correct, but it doesn't get their actual movement position right. Thing is, they don't have a velocity. They're not physics objects, so they're positioned in the world, but they don't move unless I make them move by position. Let's go back out to our game scene. We look at our collision test, and its position is 0, 0. I'm not scaling it at all, but maybe that's part of the problem. But then if I scale that, it double scales everything inside of it, which is a problem. We haven't had that problem yet. Like, only the sprites are scaled. That's all that I want scaled. But is it? Okay, Raycast shouldn't be scaled. That's not scaled. It's okay that that's scaled. They're itty bitty, but they're in the right space yet. I think the vectors can be scaled, actually, but... I don't think they were updating frequently enough. Okay, let's think through this. Increasing the frequency substantially. So it's about twice a frame we're updating now. Every 2 frames, I should say. We're updating. Ish, you know. We could do this A-B kind of thing. You know, every time we get a frame, this frame update, it would be, 0101 kind of thing. So it would be every other. But in any event, many times, we're updating it. Now, if we didn't, Delta hadn't. That's why. That's why. Let me show you. Oh, they're still moving in the wrong directions. Oh, there we go. See how they're hopping towards me? My voice is male presenting, Durgan. Anything past that is yours to interpret. Yeah. So the problem was I was only updating it based on the delta that we were getting, the fraction of a second we were getting, but I was requiring a second to have passed. So the movement that we were doing was fractional compared to how much time was passing each time. So that was skewing it. We were making very, very tiny motions every second. So I suspect if we waited long enough, they would be very, very, very slowly converging. But every time I moved, it created a great big vector that it started moving along. Come on, little blobs, where are you at? There you go. Okay, so thanks, Durgan. All right, that's about right. So if they collide with each other, the next thing, the project name right now, it's kind of the title, the work in progress title, Durgan, is Nyanite Survivors. That the actual title might change by the time it's done. We'll have to see. Okay, so now what we need to do is we have a collision to an object every time a vector hits. What we want to do is steer away from that collision. I'm trying to remember how we did this. Because we want the blobs veering away from each other. We can get this proof of concept working. Then we can start to layer this on. And start working on each individual blob being trackable in a more robust sense. But, man, we might be able to do it with just this, though. It's kind of a repulsive force, Durgan, where when those arrows touch a similar creature, we want it to... It's kind of pushing it away. It's pushing the facing of the creature away from it. That way, those bubbles won't overlap. Like, visually, the blobs can overlap. I have no problem with that. It's that... I'm sorry, the sprite can overlap a little bit. But what I don't want is them stacking on top of each other. Just to keep it from being visually messy. Now, we could accomplish this with another hitbox, but I want to reduce the number of additional collision checks we're making. Like, I don't want to invoke the standard collision system much. What I found out through reading here is that the physics engine, the default physics engine in Godot for 2D physics, there's some better stuff down the pipe for 3D at the moment, isn't all that great. In that every time an individual physics object moves, using like move and collide or move and slide, the basic physics object movement functions, it does a full collision check. So even if the physics are cut down into quadrants, then we still get the problem of doing too many checks to see what is colliding. Best case, we're still doing a handful of them every time. In worst case, we're doing a whole bunch at once, which is why we're getting like double the performance on this right now. And if we get these ray traces going, we're even less likely to get collisions, and it becomes more a rendering thing. And we don't need like 1,000 entities anyway. Okay, how are we going to do this? It's colliding. Is colliding. I think it's this one. I think this is what we want here. This might be completely wrong. I might have to look it up again. Yeah, watch them. As soon as a vector hits, they kind of slide backwards. That's not quite what we want. What we'll probably do is have them rotate. And the vectors should be smaller. This is a big improvement. All right, let's shorten those and verify. We'll also... Okay, so this is... They extend out a full square. Let's scale that out too. No, that's scaled up. So they should extend a full square. The vectors are on these, but that's going to go away soon. Okay, that's not right. The scale is there. Oh, the spawn rate's going to be very different in the finished project, Durgan. Okay, that's super small. That is super small. Okay, so one square is 96 units on the screen. Oh, let's try. It's still too far. I'm trying to figure out why it's that far. Okay, quick break. Be right back. Got to think on it more. A droid with cat ears, Connor. And hey, Patrick. Maybe delay the break just a little bit. Welcome, welcome, folks. Well, it's more the length of those arrows. The length of the arrow, I thought would be so... We've rotated the vector, and now we want the length of the vector. Like this would be the distance that the player would move, or that the blob. Not an option, Connor. We do. So we're pushing back. Welcome back then, Luca. This is a game kind of like Vampire Survivors, Connor. Right now, what we're doing is we're working on logic to make it so that the enemies don't roll over top of each other and kind of gracefully try to move around each other. So we're actually going to accelerate the rate at which the blobs appear. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not right. Why would collision test be moving? Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Yes. So right now the blue objects you're seeing, like this little egg shape or little pill shape, these circles, those are hitboxes. Little critter in the middle is the main character, more or less. Um, if the player's little shape touches those circles, that's going to be a collision. They'll probably be smaller or tightened around the models, but we'll get there. I'll probably make them a box. The blobs will also change their facing eventually. Why is that? Rid of that. Okay, quick break, actually, this time. Gotta top up some beverages and stretch out a little bit. Settling back in. It's like Luca headed off there. Okay, I think I've think I might have it. So this is the point that it will be pointing to. Like, that's where the X goes. If we do this, I just want to make sure that's still working. Okay, we didn't need global position. It was entirely the time slice behavior. Okay, so this should be... X plus yeah, Connor, there's some catnip in that box and on top of the place that Sammy is sleeping. So they're congregating there because it's comfy. It's pleasant. Let's see how many others we can see. We should be able to see at least 2. So there's Sherbet on the pillow. There's Sky up in the tree. And there's Ember across from the keyboard on the flaky cam. We'll switch over to the bed. That's way too far. All right, it's not fractionalized. Generally, I just use a fixed thumbnail for the programming streams. It's usually me over this little computer bank down there with the little avatar icon and the Godot icon on it. Okay, so now we don't want them pushing, we want them rotating away from it. Welcome back, Durgan. I say Durgan, but do you mean dragon? Okay, now we need to rotate them off. It's from a... Oh, okay, that's not what we want, but okay. What happens if we do this? I don't think this will work how we want it to, but... That doesn't seem like it actually changed. What are we doing wrong here? Collides at a particular point. We can push away from that point. Don't think this will actually work. I think this is actually going to flake out pretty bad. Yeah, I didn't like that. Oh, no, no. Yeah. In the actual game, if one of the creatures touches you, you start to lose health. In the actual game, those like little mice that are firing out and various other weaponry will, destroy the blobs or the monster of the moment. Okay, so we have a collision point. Okay, so we know where the collision is happening. Which is the point at which the arrow will touch it. Which we want to lean away from. We want to rotate away from that. So if we draw a line dot direction 2. The slime creatures are a placeholder for the moment. Slime creatures will show up in a particular circumstance. The actual main character is like a little robot. The goal of the game is to survive for a period of time, usually. There'll be some more nuance added once we've got the basic systems of the game in place. Okay, so we have a direction from the entity to the collision point. If we treat this as a triangle of where we're moving, and like we want to push it away from that, so we want the vector between the collision point and where we're going to end up. Okay. So this is our two-player vector here. This is our vector. This is where we're pointed. This is how far we'll be going. What I'm trying to do is avoiding having to go in and look this up again, because I don't have a good source for it right now. I should have written things down, but I didn't think we'd be able to do this. Okay, so let's double check this. Okay, normalized. That's fine. That's fine. That's what we want. I have not yet made the game over cutscene. Right now, I just have a placeholder start menu that is there because I want to have the scene transition set up. The game is driven by this core scene, and then the game scene is invoked accordingly. And then we have the main menu here as well. I mean, sort of, Nick. Sort of. We have the point of the collision. We want to... we are trying to do flocking motion with our enemies here. And we want them to steer away from each other. So that they don't overlap overly much. But I'm blanking on how to make that happen. No idea, Connor. No idea. We're still very much in, like, early alpha kind of development. Potentially more like pre-alpha, you know? General creature movement, Dragon, is pretty much home in on the player. The gimmick of this kind of game is that they swarm. They try to pile on top of you. So the movement direction is pretty much straight towards the player as fast as possible. The variation in their movement is to avoid the overlap. Yeah, very early testing. We're still in the stage where we're putting the bones of it together. We're designing those bones. No idea, Connor. I don't know if there actually will be a final boss. The Vampire Survivors game end state was that a Grim Reaper generally killed you. There was kind of a second tier Grim Reaper if you did a very particular way to defeat the first one. But I don't know if that's how this is going to end. There is more likely to just be a end kind of state cutscene. You don't want it to be the hard negative of it. I don't often have to do this kind of spatial math in my head, and it's making things slow. So the collision happens. If we just do that. Okay, now we get them to run into each other. Alright, that's the opposite of what I want. Now they kind of zip to each other. Hey there, Copper. About blobs run into each other. All right, that's where we already were. Oh, that cat is Sherbet, Copper. That is 1 of 5. We're looking for is that we're looking for the angle between them. We're making this game, Copper. We are developing a Vampire Survivors style game. So a bullet heaven style game. We can't rely on the angle of rotation. We get the angle to it. Two player rotated. Player angle 2. Okay. Reverse that. All right, that's doing the opposite of what I want. Well, Copper, the game development generally starts with that kind of thing, and then you decide whether you want to follow through and start the process. We're going to rotate it, and then want collision angle 2. How long have I been doing stuff like this? I've been coding this on stream for a month and a half, a little more, maybe 2 months. Hey there, Nugget. Welcome back. Okay. Let's amplify it. Right now, Frank, there to some extent I'm trying to make nanoboids. If you're familiar with boids. It depends on what you're doing, Connor. Part of why it's taking us so long with this is that I don't know GDScript or Godot in general. That's kind of working. That's kind of working. Okay. Let's emphasize it more. Where does the inspiration come from? What would it be? Well, so I like cats, as might be apparent. And so at some point I decided on the idea of a cat bot, which is the little thing you can see in the middle of the screen here. And it sort of snowballed from there. And then I decided that I wanted to make this game, and I like Survivor style games, so. Okay, so they're still pushing back from each other, which is not really what I want. But that's not terrible. That's not terrible. This is kind of where we're looking at. So now, one thing I can do to amplify that a little bit is if we take these guys and we rotate it a bit. It wouldn't be that. Fine, it'll be that for now. We're simplifying. We're simplifying. Almost certainly not there, Connor. Not really a voice acty thing. Oh, that won't work. That actually won't work. Rotated the whole thing. Thinky. Okay, we can do this. It's not the X that we want. It's not the X that we want. What I'm actively looking for is I want them to be at a particular rotation. And just change their actual length. So it's a sprite-based game, so it's going to have a bigger footprint than might be expected, but it's probably pretty tiny at this point. I wouldn't be able to tell you how big, but right now there's really not a lot of like high memory density content. It won't be until I have a whole lot of sprites and images in there that it would start to get bigger and bigger. If okay, I think I can do this. So we are going to do -50, and it's at 0. going to do 50 and 0. Okay. So then we do, in the script, we do each vector is equal to that normalized times that. Okay, so they're still glancing off of each other more than rotating. So I don't have quite the swarming logic that I want, but this is a good starting point, I think. We're in really good shape in this regard. Oh, right, let's stress test it. Do it in physics. Where did we do this? Ah, here we go. Um, 10 times a second. Let's go. We wouldn't be doing 10 times per second. There is no vampire, Connor. Vampire Survivors is a game that has, like, made a genre popular again. Welcome back, Dragon. We've got this kind of working. I still need to work on the rotation logic. But this is the kind of thing we want. Kind of. Well, thank you, Copper. Just here. And then we do this. Done and done. Okay, we're at 800 creatures with vector logic. No real noticeable drop in frames. Let's take a look at our debugger. We do have some errors going on. Monitored objects has handle pair. I don't know what that means. We'll have to look into it. Okay, frames per second is starting to drop. We have over 1,000 creatures, which is already too many. But we don't have any culling going on. We're sitting at about 22 frames per second once we hit about 1,200, which is, again, way more than we'll ever have. Okay, so we're going to have to change the culling logic if we look at our game world. Normally, anything that would hit these boxes goes away. So... what would we do with that? I wonder if we can unbind, make the frames per second unbound here. I thought there was a cap that you could put on it. It's physics ticks per second, which doesn't count. This is a special physics engine that I'm using. Ray, GUI. Well, we'll look at that later. Hey there, Saul. We'll look at that part later. Okay, to actually remove them is different, though. So, one of the things that changed today is... Where is it hiding? Test mob. This is fundamentally different than how we've been making creatures up until now. This is our new model. All right, thanks for joining us, Copper. Is it going to be an all ages game? I don't expect to put any what would be the term? Well, it depends. There will be some degree of violence in the game, but probably not any adult themes, if that makes sense. Well, definitely not adult themes, though it depends on which country you're talking about, because there are places where the expectation is reversed and violence would be considered worse. Right, Tess. Along those lines. Okay, so we still need to work on the flocking behavior to get the arrows functional. We need to work on getting the boundaries properly, removing these. But like I said, that's completely different. Because since this is a collision area that is being added to an area like this, where's our game world? So this collision test zone, you can't see it, it's everywhere. When the game is running, those bubbles that constitute the blobs are just sprites that exist as part of this collision test area. They don't exist as physics objects or bodies in the world. So I have to find them and get rid of them in a different way. If I look at these, so it's not a body shape. It is an area shape entered, I think. So this area entered that area. That's not what we want. Okay, so something in area ID that we got in that area entered the shape index. Then we have to get that index and we have to remove that index and get rid of it. Yeah. Read as, that's going to be complicated, and we'll deal with that next time. Oh, but I think we're going to call it there. We have made substantial progress. We have a method of collision that is way more efficient, and we can clean that up further. Hey there, Daniel. But we need to expand that concept, and we need to try to make the flocking behavior as efficient as possible. So we'll see from there. We'll see from there. We just gotta make sure that we tune everything. Yeah. Orphaned nodes. Oh. Well, that's a later problem. That's a later problem. Dear, dear, dear. Okay. So this was the last stream of the week. We're going to be heading into the next one with the same general coding schedule, which will be, if nothing goes wrong and I don't have to change anything, which happens all the time, will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That will be 4 p.m. U.S. Central for coding, and then around noon U.S. Central is when I do a gaming stream. We sometimes run long with the coding streams, and we'll sometimes start early with the gaming streams, but no guarantee on that. We finished For Your Tranquility earlier today, so we're going to be starting in... I want to get some Ace Attorney in next week, and then we're going to try to find some other stuff to weave in as well. But yeah, if you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, hit those good buttons that are generally to the side or down below the stream, wherever they are for the platform of your choice. It will help you find more stuff like this in the future. And then maybe I will see you on the next stream. So have a good rest of your day, everybody.